Well, somebody woke up sleepy Joe Biden. He finally made a statement about the unbelievable pro-terrorist protests we've been seeing on college campuses all week. Why, though? Why now suddenly is Joe Biden saying something? Well, we've got a hunch, and we'll show you in just a second. Plus, arrests made, mass arrests at UCLA. And, well, do you think by covering their face, these little dirtbags are keeping themselves from being doxxed or put on a no-hire list? Mr. Wonderful from Shark Tank has some sobering news for the little munchkins, and we'll share that with you. Oh, and Senator John Kennedy has a very simple question for a witness in a committee hearing yesterday. He asked him really simple. I mean, it should be able to get a yes or no answer to this question. Are you going to call me a sick? Yeah, John Kennedy said that. And we're going to show you the whole video and why it was fantastic. All that coming up next. I'm Larry O'Connor. Please call me Larry. What a day, what a day. Sometimes it's drinking out of a fire hose. The toughest job we've got is to figure out what stories we can't get to because there's so much to get to. And that's why we love doing this show, and we love that you continue to support it. You know, if you can leave comments on the video, if you're watching us live right now at Rumble, or if you're watching us after the fact, comments are a big deal. Even if the comment is just, hey, great show, Larry, or there's a lousy show, Larry. I mean, I would prefer the former to the latter, but either way, comments are important because we read them, and it matters to us that you're interacting, because that's why they call it social media. Thanks for being here. Let's talk about President Biden. He did just moments ago finally say something about these protests that we've all been watching for the last couple of weeks. Why suddenly is he saying it? Well, let's begin with yesterday. We'll get to what Biden said in a minute. It was pathetic. But let's start with yesterday at the press briefing, because something happened that very rarely happens. Members of the media, reporters not named Peter Doocy, actually asked tough questions, actually asked follow-ups to questions, actually demanded that Karine Jean-Pierre stop ignoring the question that guy asked, and then this guy asked the same question saying stop avoiding the question. You know, what they used to do during Trump press conferences all the time. Well, finally, for the first time that I can remember, they're doing it to Biden. Watch.
There's been some dramatic images really across the country over the last 24, 48 hours, especially at the Columbia, UCLA last night, University of Madison, Wisconsin, other campuses. Has the president been monitoring this? And why have we not heard directly from the president about these protests that have taken over institutions of higher learning across the country, the police responses, instances of violence? Why have we not heard directly from the president?
So just a couple of things. The president is being kept regularly updated on what's happening. As you just stated, across the country, he is monitoring the situation closely. So is his team. And I would just add that no president has spoken more forcefully about combating anti-Semitism than this president. Let's not forget, in 2017, he was very clear what we saw, the anti-Semitic vile that we saw in Charlottesville, on the streets of Charlottesville. He called that out. And one of the reasons he stepped into the 2020 election is because of what he saw, is because he wanted to speak out and speak against what we were seeing in this country at that time. Democracy was under attack. Our freedoms were under attack, and we're still fighting for that today, obviously. But he hasn't just done that by speaking. As you heard from my topper, he's taken action. He's taken action by moving forward with the first ever U.S. national strategy to counter anti-Semitism. More than 100 new actions were introduced, obviously, in that strategy. And that is how seriously this president takes it. And I think what's important here is that he's taken action on this issue.
Well, of course, he hasn't taken action on this issue, but of course, he immediately raises Charlottesville. Let's be clear here. First of all, if anyone asks anything about Charlottesville, what's your memory of the process Charlottesville, they don't immediately jump to anti-Semitism like we're seeing on college campuses right now, like vile, death to Israel, death to the Jews, keeping Jewish students from being able to attend class or even walk across the quad of a college. No, we didn't see anything like that in Charlotte. If you think about Charlottesville, you think about, I guess you'll think about the negative parts of it was about white nationalism. It was about the Confederate statue of Robert E. Lee, right? Not anti-Semitism. It had to do with Civil War stuff and race relations. So first of all, that immediately is a non sequitur. when Biden said he was going to run because of Charlottesville, he didn't really mention anti-Semitism. He mentioned race relations. He was basically lying about Charlottesville to further divide this nation over race so that he can accuse his political opponents of being racist. That's what he did. And of course, he hasn't said anything in any way whatsoever about the protests that we're seeing right now that can be equated to what he's done. You mention anything. The fact that she just brought up Charlottesville shows you that the second you mention anything in this country that has to do with hate or racism, Charlottesville, that's all they want to talk about. But you say, well, what about Columbia University? What about UCLA? What about this? La, 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 la. That's the statement that they do. But see, the reporter wasn't having any of it. This is what changed yesterday. Suddenly, the reporter said, no, we're not going to let you get away with that.
Thanks, Karine. I wanted to follow up on a previous question that was asked, and respectfully, you didn't quite answer it. The question was, why hasn't the president been more forceful in talking about the protests? You talked about how he's talked about anti-Semitism. Specifically on the protests, why hasn't the president been more forceful on that?
And I hear the question, Gabe, but respectfully, the president has been no other president has spoken about anti-Semitism than this president.
You see what she did there? I mean, it's an immediate dodge. In fact, repeat exactly what the reporter just called her on. You say that the president speaks out against anti-Semitism, but that's not the question. The question is about these protests, these people funded by major organizations with international ties who are supporting the Hamas terrorists in Gaza. It's these protests we're wondering about. That's the question. And she immediately says, no one has said more about anti-Semitism. By the way, I'm pretty sure other presidents have said more about anti-Semitism. In fact, I'm quite sure that other presidents have said more. This whole rhetorical, hyperbolic, no one has ever said more. Please, no one can tell. Name me one quote that Joe Biden has said about anti-Semitism. One memorable thing that he's ever said about anti-Semitism. Exactly. You can't remember a damn thing that he said. No one's ever said more. Plenty.
But that's not the question. It's the protest.
And I'm answering it in the way that I believe is the best way to answer your question, which is the president has been very, very clear. He's been clear about this. He's taken action. He put forth a strategic plan to counter anti-Semitism, more than 100 new actions, and not just taking actions, but his actions that across the administration. This is a whole of government process, right? We have the Department of Homeland Security that's involved. We have the Department of Education that's involved. We want to make sure that we are dealing with this, not just words, not just speaking out, but taking action.
She keeps saying this, we're taking action. It's not that we're taking action, over 100 actions. And of course, the natural follow-up then is, hey, how are those actions working out? Because, before Biden was president, before all these actions you've taken to combat anti-Semitism, I don't remember these scenes on college campuses. I don't remember these things happening on the streets of our cities. So, you may brag about all the actions you take, but how about how effective they are? About whether they're working or not, or actually maybe whether they're making matters worse, because, this commission that he put together to combat anti-Semitism, who sits on that commission? Representatives of the Council for American Islamic Relations, CAIR, an organization who was actually during the Bush administration tied to the 9/11 terrorist attacks and various anti-Semitic movements. So they're sitting on the board of the little committee that Biden put together to combat anti-Semitism. So maybe, just maybe, all these actions you're talking about aren't doing the trick, because, I don't know, I turn on my TV, I see a whole lot of anti-Semitism, a lot more than I saw during the Trump administration, or really for the last 30, 40 years in this country. But Karine Jean-Pierre continues here because she has to read the notes that were pre-approved by Rashida Tlaib and Ilhan Omar.
And so, look, the president is going to continue to monitor this. Obviously, he's going to continue to get regularly updated on this. We have spoken from this administration. You've heard from the vice president. You've heard from the second gentleman. You've also heard from this president who's taken questions on this. And what we believe, and we're very clear on this, is that peacefully protesting within the law is something that every American should have the right to do. And we are also going to call out any type of anti-Semitism that we are hearing, that we are seeing, the hate. That's something that we have done, not just throughout this administration. This president has done that throughout his political career. And we're going to certainly continue to do that.
Okay, so here's the problem, because I've already told you the punchline. about an hour ago, President Biden actually made statements. Now, yesterday, as she's deflecting all of these questions from the press, she says, we have made statements. He's made statements. He's taking questions shouted from like 100 feet away that he responds to off mic, right? And we'll show you that in a second. But the main party line yesterday from the White House and from this absolutely abysmal press secretary was, we're talking about it all the time, guys. What are you saying? But this person's spoken about it. We've spoken about it. They've spoken about it. Anytime we see anything, we speak about it. If that's true, then why didn't Biden make a statement today? What's the reason? Biden should have been able to just go off to Marine One on whatever little junket vacation that he's heading to and say, yeah, I got nothing to say because I've said plenty already. Didn't you hear what Karine Jean-Pierre said yesterday? We've said plenty. But no, they had to say something today. So everything you're seeing from Karine Jean-Pierre here yesterday is a complete and total BS, right? And again, for the first time that I can remember, reporters are holding her feet to the fire on this and playing the whole tag team tandem thing. Because one reporter reminds her, hey, since you mentioned statements that he's made and you mentioned Charlottesville, remember that thing Biden did say about 10 days ago about the protests?
You mentioned that the president is taking questions on this. Again, respectfully, he hasn't. He did take a question where he said he condemns those who don't understand what's going on with the Palestinians. I know you've been asked about that, but since you brought up Charlottesville, what do you say to those critics who say that he is trying to have it both ways, that he's essentially, trying to talk about both anti-Semitism and what's going on with the Palestinians?
I would say to those critics is no, he's not doing a both sides scenario here. When you think about Charlottesville, you think about the vile anti-Semitism that we heard on the streets of Charlottesville, right here in Virginia, right? Not far from here. The president and many of us wanted to make sure that was called out. Somebody died. A young woman lost her life. And when the president saw that, it put him in a situation, or he believed it was the right thing to speak against that. He wrote an op-ed that was in the Atlantic because about that. He decided to run because of what he saw in Charlottesville. And that was just vile, nasty rhetoric. And you had, former president talk about both sides. There was no both sides here.
All right. So a couple things that need to be explained here and fact checked. First of all, this whole thing about, it happened right here in Charlottesville, in Virginia, not far from here. Okay. First of all, there are protests right now, anti-Semitic, anti-Israel, vile protests happening literally 4 blocks away from the White House right now at George Washington University. Okay. And when you say right here, and he said nothing about those. He says right here in Virginia, in our backyard in Charlottesville. Charlottesville is a 2.5-hour drive from Washington, D.C. You know what else is a 2.5-hour drive from Washington, D.C.? New York City, where Columbia University is. If you head south from D.C., you drive 2.5 hours, you'll hit Charlottesville. But if you head north from D.C. for 2.5 hours, you'll be at Columbia. So this whole, it happened right here. That's why he had something to say about Charlottesville. New York is literally the same distance away from Washington, D.C. But then she says, we saw that vile, vile anti-Semitism, and we saw former president say there were good people on both sides. But Joe Biden's not doing that. He's not having it both ways. He didn't say both sides. Here's what Joe Biden said. This is exactly what that reporter was referring to. You judge.
Condemn the anti-Semitic protests on college campuses.
I condemn the anti-Semitic protests. That's why I've set up a program to deal with that. I also condemn those who don't understand what's going on with the Palestinians and how they're being.
Should the Columbia
That is exactly Joe Biden saying both sides have a point. Actually, they're not even saying both sides have a point. He's not even mentioning the pro-Israel protesters. He's not even mentioning or acknowledging the victims, the targets of the vile, hateful, violent, illegal anti-Semitic protests. He's ignoring them. In fact, the both siding that Joe Biden is doing is even worse than the lie that they said about Donald Trump. What Joe Biden is saying is, the protests are anti-Semitic and I don't like that, But at the same time, they're bringing attention. Those anti-Semites are bringing attention to an important cause. And you gotta understand where all the hate is coming from. That's what he's doing, which is frankly even worse, because he's equivocating and rationalizing hate speech. On behalf of terrorists, by the way. This isn't even hate speech and anti-Semitism, which is bad enough, but it's being perpetrated and screamed from the rooftops and illegally utilized in this occupation of the college campuses on behalf of the very people who just murdered 1,200 innocents 7 months ago and continue to hold 200 innocent people, including Americans. So it's equivocation and rationalization on behalf of people who are supporting the enemies of this country and our allies. So she lied again. Karine Jean-Pierre did, and we know she lied because we see the videotape. And then it came time for Peter Doocy.
Some of these encampments, they had matching tents. We're being told that there are professional outside agitators involved. We don't know if they're being paid to sow chaos by domestic folks or foreign entities. Does President Biden want his administration to find out who is funding some of these protests?
What I can say, I cannot speak to the organizations that are being reported that's on the ground. That is not something for me to speak to. That is obviously something that local governments, local officials, I keep saying local government, local officials are going to speak to. They'll have better information.
Hold up a minute. I'm going to let you finish. But number one, why can't you speak to it? I assure you, if this was the Tea Party movement or a pro-Trump rally or organization, and there was some suggestion that was being funded by outside organizations or international organizations, she would speak to it. I assure you of that. But number two, this is not for local. The whole point of this is that this is going across state lines. These are funded protests who utilize the same tents, same tactics, same signs, same slogans, same organizations across state lines. That's not a local law enforcement issue. That is, by definition, a federal Justice Department investigation, especially if there's international money involved. So again, this is her brain either doesn't function properly or she's lying to you, or of course, as always, both is an option.
On that, what we have said, and I don't think I've iterated that yet from here, is that the DOJ and FBI is going to continue to offer support to universities and colleges in respect to federal laws. So that is something that the DOJ and FBI is doing. As far as local organizations and what is all being reported on the ground, that is something that that local law enforcement certainly is looking into.
And I understand that President Biden historically has spoken very forcefully about anti-Semitism. But this week, he's not. He's MIA. Is he that worried about losing the youth vote with these protesters?
I'm going to be mindful. You're talking about youth vote. You're talking about 2024. No.
Young people.
I have to say what I have to say, and just give me a second. So I'm not going to speak about somebody's doorbell. Is that a doorbell?
Alarm.
An alarm. Okay. All right. And I'll speak more broadly. I can't speak to youth and support and voters. That's not something I can do from here. The president has taken a lot of policy actions here that he knows that young people care about. And a lot of those actions are popular with those young folks, whether it's giving a little bit of breathing room with student debt relief. So we made an announcement today, matter of fact, and we are going to continue to do that because we think it's important as families or as an American and you coming out of college and you want to build a family, buy a home, you have the opportunity to do that and not be crushed by student debt. The president understands how important it is to deal with that issue.
So I'm not going to speak to the election or politics or support from the youth vote. That would be inappropriate. I don't work for the campaign. But I will say this. We're bribing the hell out of those kids. We're illegally going around the Constitution and we're throwing a ton of money at them to pay off the student loans that they're acquiring while they're sitting there in their own filth in a tent at Columbia screaming, "Kill the Jews." And they should be grateful for that. Boy, it's good to be Karine Jean-Pierre, and it's good to be the Biden White House. She goes on to talk about all the great stuff he's doing for climate change, too. But again, I don't want to get into politics here. That would be inappropriate. Don't want a Hatch Act violation or anything. The exchange goes on with Peter Doocy for a while, but I guess what I'm demonstrating for you here is that between Doocy, who absolutely, obviously, daily holds her feet to the fire, but then you saw the other reporters for the first time in my memory actually following up, challenging, saying, and I love it, with respect, you're wrong. You're lying. You didn't answer the question. You're dodging. I mean, they didn't use those words, but they might as well have. Well, that's what finally, I believe, led to this moment. Just about an hour ago, Joe Biden finally said something. And he said something because all morning long on every cable news station, it was an endless loop of live footage of California Highway Patrol dismantling the UCLA protests and arresting people. And all you had those images with the television commentators talking through it. And even on MSNBC, even Al Sharpton said these protests are out of hand. It reached a point where Joe Biden felt clearly compelled to say something. They gave him a vitamin B12 shot. They boosted him up out there. They wrote something for him to say on the teleprompter that is 8 feet tall. And this is the best they came up with.
Before I head to North Carolina, I wanted to speak a few moments about what's going on our college campuses here.
But wait. I thought you've already said enough about this. I thought you've been talking about it every day. I thought no president in history has ever said as much as you've said about this issue. So why? Why now, right? Isn't this going completely against what we just heard from Karine Jean-Pierre? I want to say something. Haven't you already said something? Oh, clearly you haven't said anything. I'm sorry. I promise. I'll let him go longer than 10 seconds now.
We've all seen the images, and they put to the test two fundamental American principles. The first is the right to free speech and for people to peacefully assemble and make their voices heard. The second is the rule of law. Both must be upheld. We are not an authoritarian nation where we silence people or squash dissent. The American people are heard. In fact, peaceful protest is in the best tradition of how Americans respond to consequential issues.
We do not squash dissent in this country. That's a fascinating statement for Joe Biden to make. Can I quickly scroll all of the tweets that went out dissenting to the vaccine mandate and the legitimacy of the federal government mandating the vaccine or putting the pressure on corporations to mandate the vaccine lest people lose their jobs? And the fact that the vaccine had a lot of mystery behind it and was something. Oh no, I can't show you all those tweets because the Biden administration pressured social media companies to censor that because it was dissent. Oh, we do not censor dissent. No, you do censor dissent. That's all you do. All right, now I'll let him finish.
But neither are we a lawless country. We're a civil society, and order must prevail. Throughout our history, we've often faced moments like this because we are a big, diverse, free-thinking, and freedom-loving nation. In moments like this, there are always those who rush in to score political points. But this isn't a moment for politics. It's a moment for clarity. So let me be clear. Peaceful protest in America. Violent protest is not protected. Peaceful protest is. It's against the law when violence occurs. Destroying property is not a peaceful protest. It's against the law. Vandalism, trespassing, breaking windows, shutting down campuses, forcing the cancellation of classes and graduations. None of this is a peaceful protest. Threatening people, intimidating people, instilling fear in people is not peaceful protest. It's against the law. Dissent is essential to democracy, but dissent must never lead to disorder or to denying the rights of others so students can finish the semester and their college education. Look, it's basically a matter of fairness. It's a matter of what's right. There's the right to protest, but not the right to cause chaos. People have the right to get an education, the right to get a degree, the right to walk across the campus safely without fear of being attacked. Let's be clear about this as well. There should be no place on any campus, no place in America for anti-Semitism or threats of violence against Jewish students. There is no place for hate speech or violence of any kind, whether it's anti-Semitism, Islamophobia, or discrimination against Arab Americans or Palestinian Americans. It's simply wrong. There's no place for racism in America. It's all wrong. It's un-American. I understand people have strong feelings and deep convictions. In America, we respect the right and protect the right for them to express that. But it doesn't mean anything goes. It needs to be done without violence, without destruction, without hate, and within the law. You know, make no mistake, as president, I will always defend free speech, and I will always be just as strong as standing up for the rule of law. That's my responsibility to you, the American people, my obligation to the Constitution. Thank you very much.
All right, so a couple things here. First of all, he says all of this after the police move in at the UCLA campus and get the job done. He says all of this after the NYPD cleans up shop at Columbia University. He says this after the governors in the states of Florida and Texas and Georgia and Virginia actually took care of business and arrested people for breaking the law on the college campuses. He's not leading here. He waits for all of these governors and all of these police forces to actually do the dirty work without any support, without him having their back, without him actually saying, this is outrageous, this is lawlessness, order must be restored. He's silent for over 10 days and lets all the dirty work happen. And then he comes riding in on his white horse afterwards saying, this must not stand. These protests, they're already over, dude. Everybody else made the tough decisions without you. But see, there's one big part of his statement that he left out. As much as I respect them, my colleagues, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and Ilhan Omar and Nancy Pelosi and all of the other Democrat elected officials who have thrown support to these anti-Semitic lawless protesters who I just denounced, they're wrong. And I defy them. They should shut up, whatever. But he can't, see? He can't defy his power base in the Democratic Party. That's why he hasn't said anything. He's terrified. By the way, could we also have a word of criticism from the president here about all of the university presidents and faculty members who enabled this and supported it and allowed it to happen? Could he maybe go out on a limb and say the president of Columbia University should step down and resign? And all of the teachers who were making a human chain around these dirtbag, violent, lawless anti-Semites, they need to be disciplined too because higher education is a mess? No, he won't say that. He takes the low-hanging fruit, says the bare minimum that he has to say that is basically logic that every human being in this country believes, unless you've got an advanced degree, work at a university, or are part of the Democratic National Committee apparatus. And he just basically follows up after all the hard work has been done. This is not leadership. This is not what a president does. And by the way, does anybody actually believe two things? Number one, that he actually believes what he just said. Or number two, that he even knows what the hell is going on these college campuses in the first place. Anyone? I didn't think so. Inflation has gotten worse and worse and worse this year. The economists and experts thought it was going to get better, but it didn't. We were hoping for a decrease in inflation, and then the Fed would actually reduce rates. But no, the data's in, higher than expected. It's not going away. The U.S. is $34 trillion in the hole and counting. And we're not doing anything to fix it when our debt continues to rise and we just keep printing money to offset it. Well, then the prices that you pay every day goes even higher. Imagine what that's doing to your investments, especially your retirement accounts. You can either do something about it or you can bury your head in the sand. But since you watch this show, you're a can-do person. You don't avoid these things. You want to do something about it. Diversify a portion of your savings into gold from Birch Gold Group. Gold is your hedge against inflation. Birch Gold makes it easy to own, They'll help you convert an existing IRA or 401k into a tax-sheltered IRA in gold. You don't pay a penny out of pocket. This is money you already have in your retirement accounts. You're just going to convert it to gold. They've got an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau, thousands of satisfied customers. You can trust Birch Gold. Text Larry to 989898. Get a free info kit on gold, and then talk to a precious metal specialist on how to protect your savings from persistent inflation with gold. Again, that's 989898. First, text Larry, and where you're texting it is 989898. I've tried this before. Actually, I'm doing it right. What you do want to do is pull out your little text machine there. Text 989898. That's the number you're texting it to. And then in the message, you put Larry. Right? Shouldn't we do 989898 first and then what you're texting? You know what? I think you can figure this out. I trust you. I have great respect for you. However you end up doing it, the number you're going to is 989898. And what you're sending is Larry. That's me. That's my name. I mean, don't send me, but send my name. Larry. A great video here of one of these dirtbag protesters who keep their face covered. It's an absolute, look at this guy. Let's put it up right now. This guy is the quintessential soybean loving, latte drinking, white liberal, right? And he is confronted on campus by a righteous African-American man who is trying to walk across the quad of his campus. And look, see all the tents in the background. And this guy with his orange vest thinks that he's going to be acting as security and to keep this freedom-loving, liberty-loving man amongst men, black man, from going wherever the hell he wants. And let's see how that worked out with Soy Boy here.
No problem, sir. You said you had a problem, you right?
You to leave.
Bro, I'm an African American. You are a white man telling me to leave a part of the campus. You want me to go to Jasmine Rush and show her a photo of you, the dean of students, and let her know that you was harassing me?
Am I harassing?
Yeah, you are. You're asking me to leave a public place. You as a white man are asking an African American student to leave a public area at UCLA campus. That's called racial discrimination, and that's a violation of the Civil Rights Act. So do you want to get out of my face now?
I mean, I think your presence is on purpose.
What's that?
You're being an agitator.
I'm being an agitator. So you think the First Amendment is agitation?
No one. See, you're drawing lines that aren't.
Okay, because I'm practicing the First Amendment right.
And you're
to
allowed
record.
to do that.
Right. So I'm recording over here. This guy's recording me. You're not talking to him. Look, he's recording me. You're not talking to him. You got people over here. You know what I'm saying? I don't see you talking to them. We haven't had any complaints about them being agitated. Right. Well, you're just bothering me, bro.
We haven't had any complaints about them being agitated.
I don't know what
get a complaint.
So what's an agitator's
I don't
plan?
have to tell you that.
Right. Exactly. You can't even explain yourself.
I don't have to tell you that.
You're two white men. You're two white men blocking an African American student from walking around on the campus.
You're allowed to go wherever you want.
I'm allowed to go where I want. You seem to be blocking my daughter's stroller from going forward. You just spilled my drink. And you're blocking my child's stroller from moving forward. That's a little weird, bro. You're acting a little weird, bro.
I think right now you're acting a little bit.
Nah, you're gonna have to get out of my face, bro. Sorry.
Right now, you're making.
Yeah, you sure are following me though.
I mean, right now
you're following me. You're sticking your hand in my face. You're putting your arms up over me. You're doing a lot of weird stuff, bro.
Sorry, man.
Why are you sorry? I don't know why you're sorry. I don't know why you're sorry, bro.
Hold on a second. I'm sorry. This is so good, but I don't know if you saw that or not, but this guy, this Soy Boy number 1, as opposed to Soy Boy number 2 with the curly hair, and then in comes Soy Boy number 3 with the big scary glove. But see Soy Boy number 1 here? He's about to run away and get help. And you need to see his athletic prowess as he shows his masculine athletic stride across campus. Just keep a lookout to the right of your screen here. All right. And you'll see him running away from the camera. Watch.
Yeah, you sure are following me though.
I mean, right now
you're following me. You're sticking your hand in my face. You're putting your arms up over me. You're doing a lot of weird stuff, bro.
Sorry, man.
Why are you sorry? I don't know why you're sorry. I don't know why you're sorry, bro.
We've expressed that you can stand on the outside.
can stand on the outside of the encampment and film all you want.
Okay, Eric can stand here too.
Stand on the outside of the encampment and film all you want.
Yeah.
You can stand on the outside of the encampment and film all
I can stand anywhere I want. Yeah, that's the good part about being a student. Bro, you know there's a 9% acceptance right here? So I had to work pretty hard. Yeah, I got into UCLA, 9% acceptance rate, so I can go where I want on this campus. Yeah.
Who's this guy?
Yeah, a student. I'm a student at UCLA. My name is Milagro Jones. Who are you?
How did you get in?
I walked in. I'm a student at UCLA. I just said that.
We're going to ask you to
You don't
leave.
know what Royce Quad is part of UCLA? As a student, that's what we do. We walk around our school, bro.
You didn't fly in here.
Right. Did I fly in here?
We're politely asking you to step
And I'm
outside.
politely asking you to step outside. I'm a student here. Are you? Do you work for UCLA? Because I know Jasmine Rush, the dean of students, would like to know why you're putting your hand in one of her students' faces.
That's great.
So we're going to have to get you identified, buddy, for harassing an African-American student at school. What, is the school a little too integrated for you? What, you trying to segregate? You trying to resegregate the school or something?
Do you know why we're here?
Look at these white liberals, bro. Look at these cosplayers. White liberals, white libs cosplaying as the oppressed, stopping the African-American student from accessing the school. Nothing new. Nothing new. Old as time. Story old as time. Nothing new. Nothing new. Nothing new. Yep. So do y'all think y'all will catch the RICO Act when this is all said and done, or how you think it's going to play out?
Explain to me what you think a RICO is.
You guys are organized crime.
Yeah, we're going to ask you to leave again, man.
Yeah, you guys are working together to commit a crime.
What's the crime?
So right now, you've assaulted multiple students. You've assaulted multiple community members, including myself. Which,
Do you have any evidence?
yes, I do. It was broadcast on CNN, Fox News, and it was broadcast on people over here. They're the ones who ran off and told y'all I was recording right there. These are the ones that ran off. Hey, get him, guys. He's recording at the campus. Oh, my God. He has a phone, and he's practicing his First Amendment rights.
I love this guy so much. I love it. And by the way, you know what I love most about it, I think? Other than his courage and his humor and the fact that he went right at him and used their tactics at him and kept calling them white boys, white liberals cosplaying, white liberals. God, here's the best part. Karine Jean-Pierre, Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, most Democrats, because they all practice stereotypes and bigotry of a sort. Most of them, almost all of them, including those in the media, Jimmy Kimmel, the late night comedians, if they saw that guy walking down the street, black man, blonde curly hair, dyed with some pink and blue in there, wearing a pink shirt and his sunglasses, most of them would immediately think, oh, he's one of us. He's liberal. He votes Democrat. This is it. He's one of us because of course they're all prejudiced. They all stereotype. They all put people into boxes and categories. They wouldn't actually bother to figure out who this man is and what he stands for. This good father who probably just taught his daughter at that moment more than she'll ever learn at one of those Democrat-run public schools. That man is a free-thinking, liberty-loving individual who knows the law, knows right from wrong, and most importantly, knows exactly who those soy boy, white liberal boys are. And it was glorious to see. And he breaks through every stereotype that the left loves to paint people into corners with. And that man right there is why this election right now, the way it's rolling based on polls, is going to shock the world. I love that video. But you know what else I loved? I loved all the way over on the other side of the country from UCLA, here in Washington, D.C. at George Washington University, another proud, righteous, freedom-loving, free black man who also happens to be a congressman, Byron Donalds from Florida. Well, he did the same thing at GW. He's walking through the campus, and look how they treated him.
How much is APAC paying you, you bastard?
That being said,
How much is APAC paying you, you race traitor?
Race traitor, really?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Uncle Tom.
the United States is supporting a Jewish supremacist country.
Outside agitators aren't allowed. You're working for a foreign entity, you bastard.
Get him out of here. Get out of here. You're not a student.
that guy's really old to be in college.
Sir.
Anyway,
Why the United
I felt like Byron Donalds was like this close away to going beast mode on that guy, right? It was like he was just going to rip his shirt and jacket off and say, right now. Did you see the look on his face as he was staring him down? Hold on, let me get to it. Look at the camera's right in the way there, but you can tell. Look at his look. Look at right there. Right there. You know, what do you want Byron Donalds to do? I know what I wanted him to do. But he handled it. He's cool. He's cooler than me. This guy's calling him a race traitor and an Uncle Tom. And he just stared at him through those Ray-Bans. By the way, I'm told that Joe Biden looks so cool in his aviators. That's how you wear aviators, my friend. And then he just gave him that stare for about 20 seconds and then said what we're all thinking. That guy looks pretty old to be a college student. And of course, that's the story here. It's a ton of outside people funded by major organizations who want to agitate and disrupt this nation. A lot of it is foreign money. And they're not college students. Not all of them, at least. Enough of them are. And we'll get to the students in a moment and what their future might look like. But Byron Donalds wasn't the only member of Congress who went to George Washington University. Here's Lauren Boebert, Congresswoman Boebert from Colorado.
So this is what the students here at GW University are facing each and every day. Their learning activities are being disrupted. Their finals are being disrupted. They have quiet learning times. Even at the facility, the law school students are the only ones permitted on campus during finals. And their learning and study time has been really disrupted by this 2024 Summer of Love. And it's very disrespectful. We have Jewish students, many who have approached me today, who fear for the safety of their lives by the comments that are being made. There are 7 students that have been suspended for trespassing, and it's time that Mayor Bowser gets aggressive in keeping safety here on this campus and the surrounding perimeter. This is something that must be addressed, and at this time, there has been free Palestine! We bless Israel! Free Palestine! Bless Israel! Those who bless Israel shall be blessed! We stand with Israel, our greatest ally in the Middle East. That is who we stand for, and who is leading Gaza. And these folks who are shouting, "Free Palestine!" Well, let's see. I see signs here today. If you want to hear, I have seen signs here today. Queer and trans folks for liberated Palestine, gays for Gaza, from the river to sea, Palestine will be free. Lesbians for Palestine, Chinese for Palestine, followed by all cops are bastards. This is not only disgusting. Not only is this disgusting, but let me be clear. Not only is this disgusting, but let me be very clear. Almost every single person in this so-called liberated zone would be eviscerated by the very terrorists you are standing here supporting. We stand with Israel. We stand for peace in Washington, D.C. And the mayor must step up and do something to clear this. This is not the summer of love, and we are not bowing a knee to the terrorists who caused the riots and chaos in our cities anymore. And if the faculty here, who many are involved in this right now, I had people proudly saying that they are faculty and not wanting to remove a Palestinian sign from the George Washington statue. If they don't want to do something to address this, well, then kiss your federal funding goodbye.
Beautiful. And that's exactly the answer. In fact, both of the things that she's calling for there, an end to this by either the faculty or by D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser, Congresswoman Boebert, please, I beg you, you're a member of the United States Congress. Both of those entities that you just identified, the government in the District of Columbia, our federal capital city, and the faculty of George Washington University, you vote to pay those people. That's part of your job. You control money, our money that funnels to Mayor Bowser's office and the District of Columbia and George Washington University. Go back down Pennsylvania Avenue. It's only about a mile from where you're standing, and go propose the bill right now to cut them off until they fix this problem. I love that she went there. I love that Congressman Donalds and other members of Congress went there. But now that you're done, let's actually do something about it, because you actually have power. You actually can do something about it. That said, after her remarks, she did do something pretty awesome. She led a couple of other congressmen over to tear down a Palestinian flag.
We're blocking it. What else is blocking it, sir?
Stop! Excuse me, that's private property. Excuse me, this is, yes, this is private property. This is America, and that shit needs to come down. It is private property. Are you a student here?
I'm on faculty here.
Then you climb up there and get that down. The flag is personal property. The statue is not. Get it down.
It's personal property.
The flag is personal property. It's draped over the statue of George Washington that has been defaced and vandalized. And she went to go tear it down. Then she got stopped by those very protests. I love that move. Hey, that's personal property. You can't do that. You just hung it on a statue, Joe. That ain't how it works. Good job. Nice scenes there. And things are progressing. I mean, we saw people get arrested yesterday. In fact, we're going to get to that in just a sec. In fact, we'll get to it right now. I'm sure you saw all of the arrests being made at UCLA, at Columbia, at other places over the last couple of days, and it makes you feel good. But, they're all covering their faces, right? And they're covering their faces because they're ashamed of what they're doing. They know what they're doing is wrong. And most importantly, mommy and daddy either spent a lot of money or borrowed a lot of money to put them in that very expensive university. And, they want to make sure that they get a job afterwards. These people, these are future lawyers, future doctors, future, teachers and professors themselves. They're down for the cause, but not so far as it's actually going to affect them making six figures now that they've graduated from Columbia or wherever. So they think that by wearing their little COVID mask and their face diaper, or their little cosplay keffiyeh, I'm down with Yasser Arafat's scarf around their face, that in some way they're immune from any kind of repercussions from their actions. Well, they'd be wrong. Let's bring on Kevin O'Leary, Mr. Wonderful from Shark Tank. He was on The Five yesterday, and he gave a little insight into actually what's happening here with these students and what their future job prospects might be. And it's pretty glorious. Take a look.
What makes this different from all the other previous protests we keep hearing about is that you can see everything clearly.
Yeah.
How is this going to shape up for the futures of these bigots?
So student protests have been with us hundreds of years, and there's always the passion when you're young. What's different about this time is, for the first time ever, because you think about the protests in the 60s and 70s, they were shot on 16 millimeter film, very, very grainy, hard to get resolution, particularly at night. Not the case now. Everything being shot now is 1080p or 4K, even the surveillance cameras. Every single image, even at night now, goes into an AI generator and will tell you who that individual is. So I hire people. I have a lot of companies. I hire thousands of people. Within weeks, I'm going to be able, when we're doing your background check, I'm going to find this because it's going to be in there on the dark web. Those are the services we buy. It's only $5,000 to do a deep, dark check. Here's your resume with a picture of you burning a flag. See that one? That goes in this pile over here, because I can get the same person's talent in this pile that's not burning anything.
Right.
I don't care what university, what you're burning, or whose side you're on. You'll never know why you didn't get a mortgage. You'll never know why you didn't get into college. You'll never, in advanced education, you'll never know why you didn't get the job, because we see you now. And all you need is to have your eyes exposed with a new 4K image, and for the rest of your life, you're in this pile. So there's plenty of consequences for all those people. Even an image that far away, AI can generate who they are by the way the body moves. I can't believe the stuff I find in background checks now. These people are screwed.
Yeah.
What did Jesse say?
We want them to be screwed too. And listen, that is true. As much as we hate Big Brother and the surveillance state, and it is creepy that AI can do that, in cases like this, that's a fine use of artificial intelligence and the surveillance state, don't you think? And that is true. It is 100% true. as long as we can see your eyes on camera, and these are all very clear shots of people's eyes, then your identity will be discovered. And if an employer, especially a big ticket employer, a Fortune 500 company who can't afford to hire somebody who has this kind of dirty, sordid past, if they're interested, they can figure it out. And that's pretty good. That's pretty nice. Of course, if you are looking for a job in the Biden administration or maybe the future Kamala Harris or Gavin Newsom administration, I'm afraid probably those piles will be reversed that Kevin O'Leary just pointed out. I'm looking at this picture and you burned the American flag and screamed chants in support of Hamas and against the state of Israel, including anti-Semitic chants as well. We're going to put you in this pile over here where we hire you for the Justice Department. In fact, young lady, I want you to be in charge of the Civil Rights Division. You know, it's actually probably a feather in the cap if you're looking to get a job for the Democrats. But for most people in the private sector, for for-profit organizations, I still want to think that that would be a liability if you're looking to get hired. And by the way, the protests that happened at UCLA and the arrests that were made last night, something really beautiful happened. These arrests began and the police moved into the compounds, the encampments, at around 2 a.m. Los Angeles time. By the time they got to about 5:30 in the morning Los Angeles times, it was time to arrest everybody when the sun was up so everybody could see. And I want to believe that this was planned and coordinated on purpose because the police had everybody held and processed in one area where they were stood up, they were frisked, they were then put in the zip tie handcuffs. And the next thing that happened is the police took their masks off their faces. Then, once their face was exposed and their hands were behind their back so they couldn't cover themselves up, at that point, the police did the perp walk. And they walked them specifically right past where the TV cameras were, certainly past where the Fox News cameras were. So this young lady, or, well, person, I certainly don't want to presume any gender, they probably thought that their little mask was going to cover them up and hide their identity, but they were wrong. And you can see all of them over there as they're getting handcuffed. Their masks are taken off their face, and then they are marched one by one, individually, right past the cameras, and they're put on the bus to go to jail. Now, listen, this is still Los Angeles, and this is still the state of California, and I have no hope that these people will actually be detained in jail for anywhere more than an hour, if even put in jail at all after their process. And I have no doubt, sadly, that the district attorney in the county of Los Angeles probably won't press charges and will probably expunge their records. But as Mr. O'Leary just said, their identity is now known, especially because of this move. And if they thought that their anonymity was going to be protected and they'd be able to end up being a school teacher or a lawyer at a big ticket firm or a Wall Street broker or a PR consultant or anything, well, I want to think they've got another thing coming because now everyone knows who you are. And everyone knows what you believe. And everyone knows what you stand for. And maybe this move right here will keep the next group of pro-terrorist, anti-Semitic dirtbag protesters from doing what they did in California. And you know what? What I just showed you, as gratifying as it may be to see those protesters get arrested and perp walked out, it doesn't quite satisfy. So let's rewind a little bit into earlier in the morning or late into the night and watch how the California Highway Patrol really handled some of these people.
On the campus of one of the great universities in the country, the most applied to school in the country, one of the most respected institutions around the world, a scene that looks like a war zone.
Yeah, it sure did look like a war zone, and they weren't gentle by any stretch of the imagination. And they didn't take any nonsense. And by the way, isn't it interesting that it's California Highway Patrol Special Operations Unit that was put in. See, that's what the SOU on the vest stands for, and CHP. That's the state police in California, not the local LAPD. I wonder why. I wonder why it was the state police that came into Los Angeles to handle this at UCLA instead of the city or even the county sheriff in Los Angeles. It does make you wonder, doesn't it? But they're all handled. And he's right about UCLA being the most applied to university and one of the hardest to get into. It's a 9% acceptance rate with a huge number of applications. I know this because that building there that you see where everybody was encamped with the two twin towers there, sort of bell towers, that's Royce Hall. 2 years ago next month, I was right there in that quad at Royce Hall celebrating the graduation of my daughter who went there. I know how hard it was to get in. It's not a piece of cake school at all. And it drives me insane to see what's happened to it, what has been allowed to happen to it under the guise of justice and under the guise of trying to win an election. Because I do tell you right now, I think these people thought this was going to help them and somehow hurt Trump. Boy, oh boy, did that boomerang just hit them right in the face. One other thing here, though, about these protesters' future prospects. Like I said, I want to believe, Kevin O'Leary, I want to believe that companies aren't going to seek out these people, that they're actually going to avoid them like the plague. I want to believe that. But sadly, look at this tweet from this person named Andrew Dodo. He put out on social media yesterday, moral courage is greater than a college degree. If you're currently protesting against the genocide of the Palestinian people and for your university's divestment from Israel, keep going. It's working. There are plenty of companies and CEOs eager to hire you regardless of university discipline. Apply here. And then he puts a link in to the company that he's the CEO for. It's this company called HIMS. Oh, look at that fine video on their website. And this is where you can see their other positions and join the team at HIMS. HIMS, by the way, is an online pharmaceutical company that sells boner pills. So if you're having trouble getting it up, by all means, solicit the great work that HIMS does. And by the way, now you know the kind of people that they like to hire to sell you their boner pills. It's weird, though. I actually literally remember HIMS at one point advertising on the Ben Shapiro podcast. I'm quite sure I remember that ad because it sort of caught my notice that that kind of product was being sold on Ben's show. It was a couple of years ago, but clearly there's a difference of opinion from the leadership at this boner pill company. Can I say boner pill one more time? And the Ben Shapiro podcast, and certainly our podcast. I hate to tell you, Kevin, I don't think we're going to get a sponsorship from HIMS. Are you cool with that?
That is A-okay by me.
All right, we're taking a stand. Oh, one other great opportunity for the dirtbag college students who have been arrested and thrown out of their colleges for supporting terrorists. If they don't get a job at the boner pill company, HIMS, there's better news. You can continue your education overseas. According to Newsweek, there is a university in Iran who is now offering full scholarships to any student expelled from a university college in the United States of America. And it makes sense, after all. Iran, with our money, is funding the terrorists that started all of this in the first place. So I guess they feel somewhat responsible. So if you just got expelled from a college and you want to continue your education, you should take them up on their offer. Go fly to beautiful Tehran and continue your education at their fine universities. I'm really looking forward to the admissions process. When you come in and you say, hi, my name's Cricket. My pronouns are they, them, he, her. That's right, all four. And I'm doing a gender studies major with a barista minor because I'm really going to apply my gender studies degree to making the most radical espressos and cappuccinos for people at my local coffee shop. So I'm just wondering how inclusive your gender studies program is here at the University of Tehran. And also, do you have some safe spaces that I can utilize whenever things get a little overwhelming for me during my studies? What's that? You want me to go with you up to the rooftop of the building? Oh, sure. I'd love to see the view from up there. And I think we all know what happens next to poor Cricket. Is that the name I gave him? Cricket? Or her? Them? I think it was Cricket. That's what's going to happen. And honestly, at this point, I'm okay with it. Yesterday, our favorite, we can't get enough of him, and you can't get enough of him. You say you want more, so we got more for you. Senator John Kennedy. It's a confirmation hearing in the United States Senate. And actually, excuse me, I'm so sorry. Not a confirmation hearing. This is a hearing about the climate. We know how much Senator Kennedy loves talking about the climate. And the Democrats brought a witness up who has a bit of a checkered past in terms of his affiliations with radical climate groups out there. And Senator Kennedy's staff, they did a little digging into this witness's social media habits, and watch what happened.
Okay.
You're here at the request of my Democratic colleagues?
No, sir.
No, Dr. Suprin.
That's correct, yes.
Okay. Dr. Suprin, on December 14, 2023, you tweeted in support of climate defiance. That's an entity that the Brookings Institute has called a radical climate change group. Is that correct?
I don't recall, I'm afraid.
Okay. Would this be the same climate defiance that I'm looking at your tweet, you tweeted in support of them. Would this be the same climate defiance that called Senator Joe Biden, quote, a sick fuck?
I don't know, but as
I'm sorry, what did he just say? Did Grandpa John Kennedy just say what I think he just said in a Senate hearing? I mean, I understand he's just reading tweets and quoting other people, but so he did just say what we all thought he just said. And if I may say, it gets a little even more raw. He actually goes even further because, and just to be clear, and I'm sorry if this is, offending your sensibilities, but he does this to demonstrate the kind of people this guy is down with. These are the kind of people that he sides with and the tactics that they use. And this is someone that Democrats on that panel thought would be a really good and impressive fact-based scientific witness to talk about the dangers of climate change. And I love the fact that Kennedy and his staff actually vet these people more than the Democrats do.
Would this be the same climate defiance that calls Senator Lisa Murkowski a murderer?
I do not know. As I said in my statement.
Would this be the same climate defiance who told the CEO of Exxon to, quote, eat shit, Darren, close quote?
I'm not responsible for the statements of other
nice
people.
Group you're
and I also do not know
around
the
with,
answer.
Doc. Here's what your tweet says, quote, we do, in support of climate defiance, we do not do online petitions. We do not do NGO coalition letters. We do not do fucking bus stop ads. We chase fossil fuel CEOs and the politicians who do their bidding, and we do not apologize, close quote. Did I read that correctly?
That is not my tweet, sir.
That is your tweet. I'm looking at it. Here's a copy right here. It's right off your website, Biggest Dallas. On October 31, 2023, you said this on Twitter. Quote, climate justice was coined by our movements to locate it as a struggle against genocidal racial injustice, colonialism, and apartheid. If your climate justice doesn't stand with the Palestinians against colonialism and apartheid, then your climate justice has no justice in it, close quote. Did you say that?
I believe not.
Here it is,
May I,
bigger than
may I,
Dallas.
may I please see the documents?
Yes, sir, and the witnesses' documents there.
May I please
And the
point out that
senators,
this form
the
of
senator's time has expired and there are other senators waiting.
I've got a bunch more tweets. Thank you for your objective
I'm
advice,
sure you
Doc.
do. You can put them into a question for the record and.
Yes,
they'll
I'd
have
like to submit all of the good doctors' objective tweets and scientific analysis for the record.
That
Thank
will
you.
be done without objection. Senator Merkley,
May I clarify one final point?
proceed.
These are not my tweets. These are retweets. It's an
Oh, you knew that was coming. Oh, yeah. These are not my tweets. These are just retweets. I just retweeted something. I didn't write that. I didn't do that. I just follow Climate Defiance. It's constantly showing up in my feed because they're my BFFs, and we work together and we share information and share ideologies and share sentiments. But I would never use language like that. That's Climate Defiance's language. I just retweet it and amplify it and celebrate it. Do you remember when Jim Acosta's hair was on fire, screaming about the fact that Donald Trump retweeted some meme out there about CNN? Donald Trump tweeted this the other day. Well, technically he retweeted it, but it's still pretty funny. But no, God, I love that he's trying to play this game. I love that he's trying to do it, but you can't. Sorry, you guys rewrote the rules. When Donald Trump was the single greatest violation and threat to the First Amendment and the free press in America as we know it, because he retweeted somebody's meme showing a wrestler in a ring with the CNN logo superimposed over his face, getting pile drived into the mat. And that suddenly became the greatest threat to the First Amendment we've seen in our lifetimes. Because Trump retweeted that, then you've lost this argument. You're not allowed to do this anymore. You wrote the new rules. You have to live by the new rules. I just retweeted that Senator Manchin was a sick f***. I don't think it. No, sorry, pal. You're too smart for that, too. Here, well, watch him try to weasel out of this. Oh, it's just a retweet. I'm sorry. Are you seriously so stupid that you don't know how to put in your bio retweets don't equal endorsement, which, by the way, is also bull? Just because you do that, but he doesn't even do that. Oh, he's retweeting all of it. I didn't create that pornography. I just retweeted it.
And scientific analysis for the record.
That will be done without objection. Senator Merkley,
May I clarify one final point?
proceed.
These are not my tweets. These are retweets. It's an important
You
contradiction.
often retweet stuff you don't support. Is that what you're telling me, Doc?
I did not say that I don't support this. I simply did not tweet it, which, as you were alleging.
But you retweeted
I'd
them,
like
didn't
to
you?
make very clear that this form
You
of character
retweeted them,
assassination
didn't
is
you?
characteristic of the propaganda techniques
You
of fossil fuel injection.
retweeted
Senator
it,
Merkley.
didn't you?
Thank you.
Are you going to call me a sick
It's
That's the best. Talk about a drop the mic moment. Talk about drop the mic. That last part we're going to watch one more time, especially this kind of character assassination. Dude, no one's assassinating your character. You committed character suicide. You're the one who threw down with these jerks, okay? You're the one who decided that you were all, oh, this is great. Look at what these guys are saying. I agree. Boom, 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 boom. You committed your own character suicide. Okay, it's not assassination when you do it to yourself. When you're holding your own gun and you're pulling the trigger, and then he accuses John Kennedy character assassination by propagandists against climate change. The smug attitude, but John Kennedy has the perfect response.
The retweets is an important
you
contradiction.
often retweet stuff you don't support. Is that what you're telling me, Doc?
I did not say that I don't support this. I simply did not tweet it, which, as you were alleging.
But you retweeted
I'd
them,
like
didn't
to
you?
make very clear that this form
You
of character
retweeted them,
assassination
didn't
is
you?
characteristic of the propaganda techniques of fossil fuel
You
injection.
retweeted
Senator
it,
Merkley.
didn't you?
Thank you.
Are you going to call me a sick
Boom. That's who he is. And that's who he represents, and that's who he protects and celebrates and elevates. But the use of the word propaganda is interesting here. This guy is accusing Kennedy and people who are opposing the radical climate agenda that would totally upend our entire way of life based on a theory that they can't prove, under the assumption that it will change the temperature of the planet, even though they can't tell us how much, and they also can't tell us if by changing it by any discernible number, it will make a difference in what they consider to be climate change. But they say that if you oppose that, you're throwing down with propagandists. Meanwhile, let's just take a look at what Senator Kennedy is talking about. You want to talk about propaganda for a minute? When Senator Kennedy says at the very end of the video here,
of the propaganda techniques.
You retweeted
Senator
it,
Merkley.
didn't you?
Thank you.
Are you going to call me a sick?
when he says that, you need to see exactly what they're referring to, what he's referring to. This is the group, Climate Defiance, that he's been, spending all of his time retweeting because he's a fanboy. He's like treating them like they're freaking Taylor Swift, and he's a little Swiftie girl who can't get enough of them. This is what Climate Defiance does. This is what they did. This is a meeting, a private meeting that Senator Joe Manchin was involved with, and they broke into the meeting and did this.
Joe Manchin sold our futures and he's gotten rich doing it. You sick. How dare you? You sold our futures. I'm not going to sit down. You receive more funding than any other senator.
Make millions out of your position. You drive a Maserati.
Pipeline goes right through West Virginia, which are your constituents.
These people came here to support this pipeline. The pipeline we should support because it has energy going to
Not your futures, not your profits.
We'll get back on track here, guys.
Protect our futures, not your profits. Protect our futures, not your profits. Protect our futures.
Here they are. Can't wait to retweet that, right, pal? And I'm sure you saw it on the boardroom there on the back of the wall. That was the Kennedy School of Politics. Where? At Harvard. Ivy League school. You remember them? Harvard. And how did those people get in and pass security and all the way up into that room where a sitting U.S. senator was carrying on for a meeting and a discussion? How did they do that? Could it be that the people at Harvard, the administrators, the faculty gave orders to let them in because they're down with it? In fact, half of those people wearing their masks again, disrupting the meeting and screaming profanities at the senator. Maybe they are faculty for all we know. See, that's who we're up against, whether it's over the climate or whether it's over race or whether it's over Israel or whether it's whatever it is. These are radical, destructive, America-hating Marxists. And all of these tactics you're seeing, with the chants, with the linking arms, with the masks, with the college campuses and the encampments, and all the tactics that they use, it's not all just sort of instinctual. It's not something that they've all just sort of improvisationally come up with. It's scripted, it's coordinated, it's planned, it's funded. It's called direct action. It's the brainchild of a man named Saul Alinsky. It's in his book called Rules for Radicals. Hillary Clinton wrote her dissertation on Rules for Radicals when she graduated college. Barack Obama actually utilized Saul Alinsky's Rules for Radicals and those tactics when he was at community organizing. Community organizing is the brainchild of the Alinsky School of Direct Action. This is what 8 years of a community organizer in chief looks like. This is how we got here from there. This is why our country feels so different now than it did just 15 years ago. This is what community organizing looks like. Remember when Barack Obama said he was going to fundamentally change the United States of America? He did. And this is what it looks like. And this is why we're here now. But it's not too late. It's not too late. But radical change needs to happen from our side, from from our end. It's time for our direct action. Quiet, methodical, direct action to take our country back from where it's been brought. Because this right here that Senator Kennedy was referring to, this
sold our futures and he's gotten rich doing it. You sick. How dare you?
Yeah, see, we're all Joe Manchin right now, in that moment, right now. And there may be somebody stepping in to restrain us and bring order to the situation. But we know exactly what Joe Manchin is thinking and what he wants to do. And we know exactly who's staring us down and calling us those names. But we're better than that. We're better than them. We're going to keep our heads down. We're going to stay focused. We're going to link arms ourselves. And we're going to get to Election Day because that's how it's done. And that's how it's fixed. So keep the faith. We got this. We got this. That's it for today. We're back tomorrow with the Roundtable. Great panel show, including Matt Foldy. Love that kid. He's awesome, and so is our whole panel. So look for it tomorrow. In the meantime, I'm Larry O'Connor. Please call me Larry.